Good morning and happy Monday. It is great to be back with you for our 6th Motivational Monday Coffee Chat. And today I thought it would be fun, since we're nearing the end of the year, to reflect back on the past 5 episodes. Maybe you could use this as a place to come when you need a refresh and you want to look back quickly at what we've talked about, the tips, the tools, and the strategies to help you create more of what it is that you want over the next 6 to 12 months. So let's begin.
Integrative life coach Diane Altomare. It's good to have you to the show.
Author and life coach Diane Altomare.
So before we dive in, make sure you have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or whatever it is that you want to enjoy on this Monday morning. So in our first coffee chat, we talked about one of the biggest issues that we all have in staying consistent in the pursuit of our biggest goals and dreams, and that is getting discouraged. And what I shared with you was one of the most important ways to combat this feeling that can just take over without a moment's notice. And that is to focus on the actions that you're taking that are aligned with what you want to create and not the results. When we start to look at, is this working? What am I accomplishing? Am I making any progress? It can very quickly spiral us into a place of feeling discouraged. We can start to question whether this is going to work at all. So what is essential is to continually keep your focus on what it is that you're doing, the actions that you're taking, acknowledge yourself for that, and celebrate even your small wins, which could just be that I showed up today, I did this video, I'm taking action that is aligned with what I want to create, and that is enough for now. And I know that over time, as I continue to show up and take one action after the other that's aligned with what I want to create, that I will get where I want to go. So if you notice yourself start to get discouraged, remind yourself that it's essential to focus on the actions you're taking and not the results or the progress. If you need a refresh, you can go watch the full episode, and that is episode 1. And I'll put a link to all the episodes that we're talking about in the description below, so that if you want to watch the full video, you can go do that. So in episode 2, we talked about the biggest stumbling block to success. I have been coaching people for the past 23 years, and the one thing that gets in the way for most of us is taking consistent action. And it's super important to recognize that that might be keeping you from what it is that you want to achieve, and then getting to why you have stopped taking action. And it's usually one of two things. Either something's going on in your life that is difficult to deal with, and so it's distracting you. I call that an external limitation. Or the internal limitations, like fear, self-doubt, not feeling enough, getting discouraged, which is what we talked about in the first episode. And so if you notice that you are not taking action that's in alignment with what you want to create, start to look at what is going on in my life that is keeping me from taking that action. Is it something that I'm distracted with, or is it an internal limitation like fear or self-doubt or discouragement? And then use what we talked about in episode 1 so that you can start to move beyond that and get back into action. So moving on to our third episode. This one is so essential because we talked about setbacks, and it happens to all of us. The journey to success isn't a success-only journey. It has challenges, issues, distractions, times when we don't feel enough and we're not in action. And so what we talked about in the third episode is the most important thing that you start to practice is getting back into action quickly after you have a setback. And I like to make it a game. I like to look at how quickly I can get back into action. One of the strategies that I give you in the third episode is to process through what you're feeling, because it's not the struggle or the setback or the challenge that stops us. It is how we're feeling about it that often takes us out of action and has us focusing on something else and not moving forward, creating what it is that we want. All right, so moving on to episode 4. This one was really essential because we talked about how to create what you want with less effort, less suffering, and more joy. And what we dove into in this episode is the most important principle, and that is don't fight life. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's very simply what we do as human beings. When something happens that we don't like, we often freak out about it. We panic, we worry, we get upset about it, we start to have some emotional reaction, and it takes us off track. And so the key to being able to get back into action quickly, like we just talked about a moment ago, is to not resist what's happening and instead to process through it so you can find a place of acceptance with what's going on and be able to get back on track creating what it is that you want. So episode 4 is a big one. Don't fight life. Process through what's happening. Get to a place of acceptance so that you can get back into action and create more of what it is that you want in your life. So on to episode 5. This, if you have not seen it yet, is a must watch. And the reason is because in episode 5, we talk about one of the things that can get in the way of staying committed to what it is that we want, and that's our expectations. And it is one of the things that can often trip us up because as humans, we have expectations about what we want. And most importantly, which is what that episode is about, is how long it's going to take. So what I talk about in that episode is we set a goal and then we also decide when we're going to achieve that goal. But here is the question. How do we know when we are going to be able to achieve what we want? It's a good question, right? And so if we are not getting where we want to go in the time frame we've set, it is easy to get discouraged or to feel like we're not enough or feel like a failure. But the truth is, we don't really know how long it's going to take to achieve something. And so if we are willing to adjust our expectations and continue to stay in actions that are aligned with what we want to create, we will ultimately get where it is that we want to go. So I hope that this was helpful, and you may want to use it as the digest version of our last 5 episodes. And then whichever one really speaks to you, you can go back and watch that full episode. As always, I would love to hear what it is that you are up to and committed to creating over the next 6 to 12 months. And if there is something specific that is difficult or challenging that you are running into as you are in pursuit of achieving your biggest goals and dreams, put it in the comments below, and I may do a future Motivational Monday Coffee Chat about that very topic. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll see you next Monday.